All right, in this video we're going to talk about how you can factor a trinomial by grouping. So we're going to take the trinomial 14x squared plus 15x minus 9 and go through the steps you would follow to factor by grouping. The first thing you want to do is multiply the first and the last terms. So in this case we're going to take 14x squared multiplied by negative 9, and that's negative 126x squared. And once we do that, we're going to try to find two factors of negative 126x squared that will add up to 15x. So this is where you're going to have to go through a little bit of guess and check and figure out what factors of 126 add up to 15. And it turns out that the two factors are 21x and negative 6x. So once we know those two factors, what we're going to do is go back to our original trinomial and we're going to rewrite it using the first and last terms, but we're going to replace the middle term 15x with these two terms we just found. So that's going to give us 14x squared. I'm going to put minus 6x as the second term, plus 21x minus 9. Now the order there doesn't really matter, the middle two terms. You could do it either way, but you have to be a little bit careful if your third term is negative in the next step. So what we're going to do now is group the first two and last two terms. So I'll rewrite what we had. So when I group them, I'm just going to put parentheses around them. There's the first two, and then there's the last two. That's the part you have to be careful with if your third term has a minus sign. If that third term was a minus sign, then you would want to change the minus to a plus and make the third term negative and then put the parentheses. And the next step is we're going to factor out the GCF. And so this is where you're going to think of 14x squared as 2x times 7x. Right? And you're going to think of this as 2x times 3. So there's your common factor. And in this one, it's going to be 3 times 7x and 3 times 3. And again, there's your common factor. So that's going to give us 2x and then 7x minus 3. And then the common factor of 3, 7x minus 3. And what you want, ideally then, is to have these two binomials right here to be the same thing. And then the last step, you factor out the common binomial factor. So just rewrite what we had. So you're going to factor out that common binomial factor. In this case, it's 7x minus 3. And that's going to be our first binomial, and then the part that remains, the 2x and the plus 3, that's your second binomial, 2x plus 3, and that's your answer. And those two things, which you could then do FOIL to check that. If you were to multiply that all out, it would be 14x squared plus 21x minus 6x minus 9. I mean, you can see all those terms are exactly what you have at the top of this page. And the 21x and the negative 6x are switched around. And when you add those together, you will get 15x. And that gives you your original 14x squared plus 15x minus 9. And so those are the steps that you would go through to do by grouping. All right, so now we'll go through another one. Okay, the first thing we do is multiply the first and the last terms. 6x squared multiplied by negative 70. And it's negative 420 x squared. And now we're going to try and find factors of negative 420 that add up to be positive 1. Okay. Would add up to positive 1x. So basically you're looking for numbers that are going to be close together. And in this case it's going to be 21x and negative 20x. And so I'll rewrite the problem. 6x squared minus 20x plus 21x minus 70. I group the first two, group the last two, pull out a common factor. Okay, in the first one, it's going to be 2x, 3x minus 10. The second one is going to be 7, 3x minus 10. Okay, here's my common binomial factor. Goes right there, and what remains is the 2x plus 7, and that's your answer. Okay, so we multiplied the first and the last, okay, and then found the factors of the product that would add up to 1x. You rewrite them, you group them, you find your common factors, and you get your answer. And here's another one. Multiply the first and the last. It'll be 60x squared. So we're looking factors of 60x squared that add up to 17x. And those would be 12x and 5x. And so we rewrite it, 10x squared plus 12x plus 5x plus 6 group them. Pull out common factors here. It's going to be 2x. That would be 5x plus 6. The only common factor of the second binomial is 1. And so I have the 5x plus 6. So here's our common binomial factor. 5x plus 6. Here's what's left. 2x plus 1. And that's your answer. And remember, all of these you can do FOIL at the end to double check and make sure that your answer is correct. Right, but this is a way you can factor trinomials sort of by having a little recipe and directions to follow.